Hey y'all, it's Sloan Spencer from The Morning Dive at 94.9 The Palm, and hanging out today with someone whose song we've been loving, Gracie Abrams. How's it going?
It's going. We're all hanging in over here, and I have been with my family this whole year. We've all been together, so which is very lucky, and we've all learned that we actually like each other, so it's a blessing. How are you?
For sure. Well, thank you. Yeah, it's been interesting. We've all adapted and learned how to work from home, and even in radio, we're doing that. And I know that impacted you as you had this great album with Minor, and then we're playing the song Friend. And you had a tour, and here you are in your bedroom.
Yeah, exactly. It's been like a pretty incredible thing to see how much can be done without leaving home. And I feel very lucky for every single opportunity, including this one, to be able to meet new people, even though it's through a screen. This is truly like, without this, for me at least, I would be seeing very few faces. So it's nice to be here with you today. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Our pleasure. It's been an interesting way to connect with people in some ways, in a more intimate way, sort of like your songs.
That's my goal. I think, in the circumstances being what they are this past year, without, physical touring, a lot is different than it would otherwise be. But like you said, I feel like the amount that I've been able to communicate with my audience has really just like shown me how much we can stay in touch and keep ourselves like aware that there is love and light outside of our homes. And I think in terms of the music, being able to do a tour from my bedroom was a really exceptional experience, and more than any touring I've ever done in my life, period. So I'm still finding there are so many like new experiences that I'm like latching onto every single day, despite the circumstances.
So for a lot of people, this has been a time of either increased creativity or kind of a flat line on creativity. How has that been working for you?
It's been really rough, to be honest. It was super troubling for a while. I recently read Phoebe Bridgers had her cover story for Nylon. I read her whole interview in bed like yesterday, and she said something along the lines of it's exhausting not to write about what's going on, and it's exhausting to write about what's going on. And I think like for highly sensitive people in general, that really stood out to me. And I think I felt of kind of real lack of inspiration, and then guilt associated with that lack of inspiration, considering what this year has been. And so it's been ups and downs, but I feel lucky to have broken through that writer's block the past month. And I really feel like I'm back in my body, because it was a weird chunk of time to not feel inspired to write every single day, which is what I've been used to my whole life.
Yeah, absolutely. I think most of us who are creatives in some way have felt that at least at some point throughout this experience. Yeah. So what are you finding is changing for you in what you're writing now?
Well, journaling has been a huge part of my life. And for the first half of this past year, I stopped, which really took a toll on my mental and emotional health in more ways than I kind of realized at the time. But since I've been doing it again, it's helped me like process a lot. I think in being home as much as we have, it's like offered time for me to reflect on things that I had been bottling up or shoving down or whatever it is. And so I feel like self-reflection has kind of been a major theme the past few months for me. And I'm really grateful, because it definitely is unlocking a lot of, things like thematically for new music that I wouldn't have otherwise kind of allowed myself to explore.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've always journaled, but I found bullet journaling in this past experience. And that's been a great way for me to realize that there are some themes to some of my creative work that maybe I hadn't recognized before. Do you have a method you use, or are you freeform?
I was talking about it with my therapist recently, but when I started journaling again, I felt so frustrated with myself because it felt very performative. I didn't feel, for the first couple days, I felt like I was lacking my personal voice, and no real like I guess like method other than forcing myself to stay on top of it, because it really is like a muscle for me. At least I feel like exercising that practice is what leads me to always feeling better ultimately. So I just consistency, not that that's helpful, but it's definitely what's helped me.
Certainly. Well, you make an appointment with yourself to agree that you're going to do
it. Exactly. It's, I think like I feel like exercising any control in this time is making me feel like a little bit more of a person and a little bit less of like a floating.
Totally.
So, yeah.
Those of us who are creatives, I can't speak for everybody, but certainly used to, letting the muse take us wherever, and having to impose sort of an external schedule on ourselves with, in many ways, suddenly free time now that we're all home. What have you found has been something new that's developed for you in this experience?
I feel like this is a kind of typical answer for a lot of people now, but cooking has been like a really, really genuinely like important, not even activity, but like practice that I've fallen in love with. And it's also been a pretty big deal in terms of bringing my family together every single night for dinner. There's maybe like 2 nights out of the week that I don't cook for my whole family, but otherwise we are sitting down and having conversations over a meal. And, before, when all of our lives were all over the place, my brother and myself were not even living at home anymore. I have a younger brother who's 14 or 15 now. And so it's just bringing us together. And it definitely, I think anything that feels like it's being made with love these days is very appreciated. So, but definitely my brother always makes fun of me because he's like, this is you trying to like control a situation when you can't elsewhere. And I'm like, it's honestly true.
Of course. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, so I stalked your Instagram a little bit and saw a few of the things that you made, and I did not see any sourdough bread. How can you pandemic cook without sourdough bread?
I don't know how I've gotten through this year without, I haven't cooked bread, period. Like I have never once done it. Maybe that's what I'll do tonight. This is the final push. I just needed like someone to confront me face to face.
Right. You must do it. I mean, really.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, so as you've been developing these things, you haven't really had a chance to reflect on what's gotten you here musically with some of your audience. So we've been having a great time at 94.9 The Palm playing your songs, but we haven't had the opportunity to share about like tour, but you had the bedroom tour. Tell us a little bit about what that experience was and what you're looking to do with that.
It really it's funny that I feel, because it's more of a tour than I've ever done ever. I've never played a live show still for an actual audience. And so when I got to do the bedroom tour, it really was like a step above anything I had done in the past. And so, for so many artists, they are missing out on the very like beloved experience of being able to go travel and tour and meet new people and connect with people in person over the songs that you've, both had experiences with individually and coming together. And it is like, from speaking from a fan perspective, going to shows, it like is so emotional, seeing live music. And so this weirdly made me feel very similarly, and I wasn't expecting that to be the case. And so it was a joy, and it was like scary, and it was great that I felt I was able to play the songs for my audience in the room where I wrote most of them. And so it was a really weird kind of like full circle thing. And I'm grateful that I got to tour Minor from my room. Like it's almost like the most perfect version in some ways that it could have ever possibly been. Like when we were doing, set design for the shows originally, when I was kind of like sketching things out, I wanted it to feel like my bedroom. So this was a more literal version of that. Yeah.
When they talk about you want an intimate show, this was a different kind.
Yeah, exactly. That you can't really get any closer. Yeah.
But it does. I think fans have really, especially as we've gone on with this experience for much longer than most people anticipated, I think fans really learning to connect with their favorite songwriters in ways where that is an element that they now desire and crave.
Yeah.
Hopefully in an appropriate way. But, it's a type of communication that you really didn't get a lot before.
That's true. I mean, it's super true. I think it is odd to picture it on a larger scale than it's been with me. And I don't think about like any of the work that like I do or my music is, it's odd because I feel like my audience for the most part are people my age. In so many ways I'm communicating with what feels like just friends and peers. And so I have less hesitation, saying like, let's do a Zoom from my bedroom. I'll show you all like my piles of laundry and like my open journal and like all this stuff that I have lying around. It doesn't feel invasive. And I think that a part of that is because of the times, but also a part of it is because I am so lucky to have found an audience somehow of people that are so cool and like straight up and not like creepy. I just don't feel intimidated by them. And I think my expectation in terms of sharing music publicly was that I was going to feel terrified of people. And I actually just feel like I found a really cool community.
That's amazing. And that's exactly what most people are seeking, is that sense of community.
Yeah.
And that it brings. So
exactly.
What is 2021 going to look like for you? Do you have anything on the books?
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely a lot that's penciled in because as we all hope, things will improve this year. But whether or not, we're still in our rooms a year from now, there's a lot of music that I'm working on that I'm really excited about because it feels like a new chapter for me sonically a bit. And I think having the foundation of Minor means a lot to me because it really is kind of like the purest example of my songwriting. And like, I guess I don't really think about reflecting on the past year very much because it was so intense for everyone, but thinking about the good parts, I feel really grateful that I was able to release a project that I'm proud of, and that I met people because of it and that I'm talking to you because of it. It's just very cool. And so I'm very grateful and excited for this next year. Hopefully everyone stays as safe as possible.
Absolutely. So just before we wrap up, who would be a dream collaboration for you on something in the upcoming near future?
James Blake is like top of the list for me. And I've always wanted to write with Imogen Heap. I have been listening recently, going back and watching radio performances that she did from like 2005. And just watching her, I don't know why I feel very kind of like hypnotized by her and her songwriting right now. So if I could ever write with her, I would probably lose my mind. But definitely James Blake is also someone that I've always felt so inspired by, and I think I would learn a lot from being in the room with him.
Absolutely. Let's put that out into the universe.
Well, I know, we're manifesting right now.
Right, exactly. Gracie Abrams, congratulations on the record and adapting on the fly to such a strange year for all of us. And thank you for joining us at 94.9 The Palm.
Thank you for all your support. Thank you for making time for me today. So nice to meet you.
Our pleasure. You as well. Be well, and hopefully
you too. Yes, have a good one. Stay safe.
Bye-bye.
Bye. See you.